Hello guys, today we're going to talk about a very romantic movie. The movie begins with a girl named Bobby, who is deeply missing her boyfriend, Kaio, as they haven't met in a while. She texts him, but then Kaio surprises her by showing up unannounced and proposes to her. Bobby happily agrees, and their love story takes off. In the next scene, Bobby is seen shopping for her wedding dress. Her friend asks her if she's ready to spend her entire life with Kaio. Bobby confidently replies that she is. However, her friend admits she prefers meeting a new guy every night to keep her life exciting and doesn't want to waste her life with just one person. This moment reveals that Bobby used to be quite adventurous in her past, frequently dating new guys. But since Kaio entered her life, she has completely changed. Bobby even advises her friend to find a good guy and settle down. Meanwhile, an old lady overhears their conversation and thinks to herself how much girls these days have changed, reminiscing about her time when people would agree to marry just by looking at a photo of the groom. We then learn that Bobby is not just Kaio's girlfriend, but also his business partner. She manages the financial transactions for his company. One day, Kaio has a court hearing, and Bobby is on her way to the courthouse with her assistant. On the way, she sees a bike, which brings back memories of her old days when she loved riding bikes. When Bobby arrives at the courthouse, Kaio hasn't shown up yet, and she gets nervous. Meanwhile, the judge, Marcos, enters the courtroom. Marcos is incredibly handsome, and Bobby can't help but feel her heart skip a beat at the sight of him. Soon, Kaio arrives, and the hearing begins. The case involves allegations against Kaio's company because their partner company, Gold, was accused of fraud. Kaio presents evidence proving his company's innocence. Judge Marcos, convinced by the evidence, clears Kaio's company of all charges. Overjoyed, Kaio hugs Bobby, but Bobby's attention is fixed solely on the She even tries to subtly flirt with him, making her feelings quite obvious. Kaio has to leave for another city due to company work. He bids goodbye to Bobby and departs. The following day, we learn that Bobby's bachelorette party is about to take place. Bobby invites her assistant, Tiago, who is also her best friend, to the party. However, Tiago declines the invitation. Bobby was ready to start a new chapter in her life and wanted to let go of her past completely. To do so, she even sold her beloved bike, which held significant sentimental value to her. Next, we see the bachelorette party scene, which included only women. During the party, a male stripper performs a dance in front of them, and the girls enjoy the moment. After the dance, the girls present gifts to Bobby. However, one of the gifts completely shatters her. Inside the gift box, Bobby finds pictures of Kaio up with another woman. Heartbroken, Bobby locks herself in the bathroom, worrying her friends. Her friend calls Tiago, who arrives shortly to help. Tiago consoles Bobby, convincing her to come out of the bathroom. However, Bobby is now consumed with a desire for revenge against Kaio. Fueled by this determination, Bobby decides to go to Kaio's office to find out about the woman in the pictures. But when she arrives at the office with her two friends, the security guard refuses to let them in. The trio tries to convince the guard by telling him that Bobby is engaged to his boss, Kaio, and that they are there to set up a surprise for him. Convinced by their story, the guard allows them inside, but insists on accompanying them, since the guard's presence would make it difficult for Bobby to investigate. Her friend distracts him by leading him into another room and seducing him. Meanwhile, Bobby searches through Kaio's office and discovers that the woman in the pictures has been in a relationship with Kaio for 2 years. She also learns that Kaio has been giving the same gifts to that woman as he had given to her. Anger takes over Bobby, and she begins smashing things in Kaio's office that he values most. The sound of breaking objects raises the guard's suspicions, but Bobby's friend keeps him distracted. A short while later, all 4 of them came out of their rooms. The guard asked them if they had heard the sound of something breaking, but all 3 denied it and walked away. After taking her revenge on Kaio, Bobby was very happy, but also deeply saddened by what Kaio had done to her, which was truly wrong. Days passed, but Bobby still couldn't forget Kaio, and his memories continued to haunt her. This led her to start using substances. One morning, when her friend came to visit her, she found Bobby completely intoxicated. Seeing her condition, her friend decided to take her for a makeover. The new makeover looked great on Bobby, and she finally decided that she would end her business partnership with Kaio. Afterward, Bobby went to the judge to retrieve some files she had left at the court a few days earlier. Seeing Bobby in her new look, the judge was quite by her. As Bobby stepped out after meeting the judge, she encountered Kayo, who was both angry and apologetic toward her. However, Bobby no longer wanted to talk to him and kept asking him to leave. Kayo refused to listen, but just then, the judge arrived, and Kayo left upon seeing him. In the next scene, we see Marcos and Bobby at a club, where they were drinking and chatting. At the same time, we see Mark was seen eyeing another woman, and Bobby noticed this. Mark went to talk to that woman, and Bobby stepped out of the club. Later, Bobby shared everything that happened with her friend, and admitted that her friend had been right. She said, "You were right. You shouldn't spend your whole life with just one guy. Find a new one every day, enjoy with them, and live life to the fullest." Bobby then returned home, where she found the main door open. Upon entering, she discovered her house was a mess, indicating that someone had broken in and searched through her belongings. This made Bobby extremely nervous and frightened, so she called Tiago and asked him to come over. Tiago arrived shortly after, and Bobby told him about Marcos and how he had saved her from Kayo. Expressing her liking for the Marcos, Tiago then warned her that Marcos is a very dangerous man. Tiago casually tells Bobby during a conversation that he likes her, but Bobby explains to him that they are just good friends and nothing more can happen between them. Hearing this, Tiago walks away. Bobby then decides that she should fully enjoy her life. She chooses to return to her old lifestyle and buys back the bike she had sold during her bachelorette party. The next day, Bobby joins a bikers club and they all set out on a trip. Among them is a biker named Marcos. Bobby and Marcos share many conversations and eventually fall in love with each other. The next morning, Marcos leaves suddenly, and a fellow biker warns Bobby that Marcos is a strange person and that she should stay away from him. This leaves Bobby feeling uneasy. In the next scene, we see Bobby at her office when she receives an email containing videos of her and Marcos. This shocks her, leaving her tense and unsure about who is trying to in her life. Her suspicions swing between Kayo and Tiago. A few days later, Bobby unlocks Kayo's laptop and discovers his dark secrets. She learns that the fraud case against Kayo's company in court was actually a fraud orchestrated by Kayo himself under another company's name. Bobby now has a perfect chance to take revenge on Kayo, but remembering how much she once loved him, she decides not to. Around this time, Marcos invites Bobby on a date. In the following scene, Bobby visits Marcos's house, where they have a great time and grow closer. Bobby starts staying with Marcos. One night, a woman visits Marcos. This is Paula, whom we saw earlier sitting in the club. Paula is revealed to be Marcos's wife. Paula confronts Bobby aggressively, and when Bobby learns that Marcos is married, she becomes furious and leaves on her bike. Once home, Marcos visits her to apologize and explain his situation. At the hospital, Bobby learns that Marcos has a 4-year-old daughter who is suffering from a health condition, as Paula used various substances due to her mental instability. This was the reason Marcos and Paula could not stay together. Hearing this, Bobby feels somewhat relieved. In the next scene, Marcos begins investigating the person responsible for Bobby's accident. He instructs his assistant to arrange tools and resources to monitor the people around Bobby closely. In the next scene, we see Kayo looking severely as if someone has Just then, Tiago arrives, and it is revealed that Tiago was behind all the wrongdoings, working with a gang. Ever since Bobby had stolen Kayo's laptop, the gang had been searching for both Kayo and Tiago to retrieve their money. Meanwhile, Bobby was in a relationship with Marcos, which is why Tiago and the gang couldn't harm her. Tiago, however, wanted to keep Marcos away from Bobby for his own safety. Marcos, who had been keeping an eye on Bobby's friends, overhears all these revelations. He calls Bobby, but she is upset with him and refuses to take his call. At this point, Bobby is heading to the police station with Tiago to file a complaint against Kayo. However, Tiago betrays her and kidnaps her instead. Despite Marcos repeatedly trying to call her, Bobby is too scared of Tiago to answer. When Tiago's attention wavers, Bobby quickly picks up Marcos's call and explains her situation to him. Bobby's live location is always shared with her friends via an app, so Marcos uses it to track her location. Tiago takes Bobby to a dark forest, and it becomes clear that he plans to kill her. Kayo is seen digging a grave for Bobby, as Tiago orders him to shoot her. However, Kayo refuses, and in a fit of rage, Tiago grabs Kayo's gun, but before Tiago can kill her, Marcos arrives, and a fierce fight ensues between the two. During the fight, Marcos's assistant arrives and shoots Tiago from behind. Bobby rushes to Marcos to check if he is okay, though he is severely injured. Help arrives in time, and Marcos is taken to the hospital. Days pass, and we see Marcos fully recovered. In the final scene, Bobby and Marcos get married, and Bobby adopts his daughter, bringing the story to a happy ending.